Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. William Thompson's office is located on the 47th floor of Boston's financial district. The entire city is silhouetted through the wide floor-to-ceiling windows. 15 years of structural engineering experience has made him unusually sensitive to any subtle anomalies. Recently, some disturbing cracks seem to have appeared in the foundations of his life. William slid his mouse around and scrutinized Rebecca's credit card statement. Those records of business lunches at the Moonlight restaurant caught his attention. A $300 lunch, even for a client meeting, is an extraordinarily extravagant amount. Rebecca has always been careful with expenses, keeping detailed records of every client interaction for her PR agency. But lately, that caution seems to have subtly changed. Mr. Thompson, his assistant's voice came through the office intercom. The contractor from the Riverside project has arrived. Invite them in. William minimized the browser window, his face returning to its usual calm. 3 men walked in, led by Jason Burke, their director of engineering. About the support beams, Jason began, looking slightly nervous as he flipped through the papers in his hands. We had to make some adjustments to the original design. William leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing the other man's flickering gaze. Adjustments? That adds $40,000 to our budget. The cost of materials has gone up, and according to the specifications provided by Mr. Oliver. Oliver Harrison is a realtor, William interrupted, a hushed authority in his voice that made people involuntarily straighten their backs. He's not responsible for providing structural specifications. That's my job. The meeting ended with Jason promising a revised quotation, but William had seen enough. These so-called Oliver's trusted team has tried to cut 3 major corners in the past month. As a structural engineer, he identified these problems that could jeopardize the safety of the entire building. William didn't go straight home that night. Rebecca's text message was long expected. Emergency on Carlton project. Don't wait up for me. Love you. He drove to their duplex in the Hillside neighborhood, where every room seemed to become unfamiliar. Has Rebecca been laughing at his stupidity? Is her recent enthusiasm for redecorating in preparation for someone else's taste? In his home office, William begins to work on organizing decades of paperwork, a task he has been putting off. Especially after Rebecca hired a professional organizer last month, she's become incredibly insistent on him clearing out the clutter. The leather-bound notebook caught his attention immediately. Unlike his engineering journals, this note has no spine title. Rebecca has taken to keeping her journal in her nightstand, a habit as thunderous as her yoga every morning. Finding an old diary among his college memorabilia is like finding a miscalculated bearing point in an architectural drawing. The early records matched his memory exactly. September 15, 2020. William gave me tickets to the Phantom of the Opera tonight, and he remembered how much I wanted to see the show. Sometimes I can't believe how lucky I am that he is always thoughtful about our future. Most men would spend their inheritance on themselves, but William invested all his money in our dreams. Then, sometime 2 years ago, everything started to change. April 15, 2022. Met with Oliver Harrison for the first time today to talk about vacation properties. He has everything that William lacks: spontaneity, enthusiasm, and energy. When he showed me the list of lake homes, his hand touched mine unobtrusively, and the stirring of that moment surpassed all the feelings William's years of careful planning had brought me. Records became more frequent and more detailed. May 3, 2022. Oliver understands me in a way William never has. Today, in a private room at Moonlight restaurant, we talked for hours about our dreams and about escaping. He said I was wasting my talents playing the dutiful wife. He said with my PR skills and his real estate contacts, we could build a business empire. June 20, 2022. Jason's lake house fit our date perfectly. He was very helpful in helping us keep our secrets. He said he always felt William was too stereotypical and too focused on his career. The lake house has become our sanctuary, and Oliver brings champagne while we watch the sunset and plan for the future. William's fingers tightened around the journal as he continued to read about the weekend appointments disguised as client emergencies, the plots orchestrated through Rebecca's sister, Emma. August 12, 2023. Emma is simply wonderful. She's documenting every detail that might help the divorce. Every time William works overtime, every conversation about money, She is molding it all perfectly. The image of a controlling, career-obsessed husband who restricts his wife financially at every turn. Her position as a junior associate at Harrison and Miller gives her access to the best legal resources. The irony of William's college buddy George, who is a senior partner there, unknowingly helping us build our litigation case is nothing short of delightful. The next record made his blood curdle. March 1st, 2024. The house at Riverside is our miracle. William thought he was building an $850,000 anniversary surprise with his inheritance and savings, completely unaware that he was funding our escape plan. Oliver has found a buyer for his house and Jason is helping with the paperwork. Contractors are overcharging and accumulating enough money to support our new life. In a few months, I'll be able to stop playing the loyal wife. A knock on the door interrupted his reading. "Hey man, wanted to come by and see how the house plans are coming along." Jason Williams stood in the doorway, in a tailored suit, his demeanor subdued. 15 years of friendship, they've been through divorces, business failures, family changes together, and now. "Perfect timing," Williams said, gesturing for him to sit down. "I'm checking out the quotes from the contractors you recommended." Jason sat down and loosened his tie. "Find everything you need?" Interesting choice of words. William maintained a calm tone. "The specs for the support beams look creative. Construction costs are insane right now." Jason shrugged, but his eyes drifted to the journal on William's desk. "Heard you've been working a lot of overtime lately. Thought you might need a break." "You're always welcome at the lake house." "That's very generous." William paused. "I've heard it's very popular there lately." A hint of nervousness flashed across Jason's face. "You know, old houses need regular maintenance." "I know." William stood up and walked over to the window. "The foundation is the key. One crack, one weakness, and the whole structure could collapse." Shortly afterward, Jason made an excuse to leave, his former confidence visibly shaken. William stood in front of the window, watching the city lights come on one by one in the twilight, his reflection on the glass looking determined and cold. Tomorrow, the demolition would begin, but tonight, he would play his part perfectly. After all, Rebecca isn't the only one who knows how to act. Angela Chin's office overlooking Boston Harbor is a minimalist design that perfectly reflects the accountant's disciplined approach. She studied the financial records spread out in front of her, her expression becoming more and more grave with each page. "They're not even trying to cover it up," she said as William sat across from her. "Your wife is moving money through a series of transactions disguised as PR firm expenses. Check out these event planning costs from Jason's restaurant." William leaned over to view the document. "What's the exact amount?" Nearly $200,000 was transferred to a private account over the past 18 months. Angela highlighted several entries. She used Jason's restaurant as a cover, and every corporate activity was just a means to move money. The most basic of money laundering techniques, and frankly, I'm offended by how obvious they are. "Show me all the details." Angela pulls up detailed spreadsheets on her monitor. Monthly transfers are kept below the reporting thresholds, and the PR agency's books show reasonable expenses, event planning, client hospitality, venue rentals. But against Jason's restaurant records? She clicked open a couple of documents. There's no actual activity, just paper records and false invoices. What about construction payments? Here's where it gets even more interesting. Angela pulled up another file. Your contractor overcharged by about 40%, with half of the excess going to an account controlled by Oliver Harrison and the other half spread out to various shell companies. Typical kickback scheme. William was driving to his next meeting when Rebecca called. He put it on speakerphone. "Honey, Emma's planning a surprise party for George for next month. Can you transfer $10,000 to our joint account? I'd like to help cover some of the costs. After all, he's been so good to us." William's grip on the steering wheel tightened. $10,000 for a party? You know George's style, just the best. Besides, think of all he's done for us. "Sure," William kept his tone calm. "I'll take care of it." Michael Zhang's cybersecurity company is located in a converted warehouse in the Cambridge area. His college roommate has grown from an amateur hacker in his dorm room to one of Boston's top digital security experts. "You're not going to like what I found," Michael said as he led William into a safe room. "Your wife has been busy." Separate email accounts. encrypted communications, detailed asset documentation. He pulled up screenshots on the big monitor. She's been sharing everything with Oliver: bank statements, investment portfolios, real estate appraisals. They have spreadsheets to track your work schedule, travel patterns, and even gym time. Let me see. Michael opens various files. It's all here. Emails, messages, shared documents. They've been planning this for almost 2 years. Rebecca has been photographing financial documents and sending them to Oliver through encrypted channels. What about the extent of Emma's involvement? That's the real kicker. Michael pulled up another folder. Find these in Rebecca's cloud storage. Emma has been preparing materials for the lawsuit for months. Look at these incident reports, ordinary conversations twisted into controlling behavior, everyday financial discussions portrayed as abuse. He scrolls to show the document. She gathered Jason's testimony about you displaying aggressive behavior at his restaurant. All of these have been carefully cataloged, complete with dates, but all are fictional. Do you have access to Oliver's professional records? Michael flashed a predator-like grin. It's done. Found some interesting correspondence with contractors. It was also discovered that he had been using his company's client database to identify potential projects for their future business. It's totally illegal. All content is logged and all access through legal channels, shared accounts, common devices, cloud storage. There's nothing you have a right to access that can't be used in court or sent to a regulator. The following week, William began compiling evidence. He detailed Oliver's ethical violations, compiling property undervaluation comparisons, contractor kickbacks, and misuse of client information. Each document is carefully organized and each allegation is supported by solid evidence. One morning, Rebecca mentioned a client crisis that needed her immediate attention. William traces the location of her cell phone through the restaurant's security cameras, thanks to his status as a shareholder in the restaurant, a detail Rebecca had forgotten, to none other than Jason's lake house. Through the camera, he watched Jason create fake event planning receipts that afternoon. Later that afternoon, William sent an anonymous tip to the state real estate board and the ethics committee of Oliver's company. He attached evidence of the construction team's forgery to a complaint filed with the state contractors board. Emma took action a week later, asking him to lunch to discuss her concerns. William, as your sister and an attorney, I feel obligated to point out some patterns I've noticed. She began to speak, her concerned expression almost fake-like. William fired up the recording app on his cell phone, which is perfectly legal and public. What kind of pattern? There have been a number of incidents. Rebecca mentioned that she felt financially restricted, and Jason told me about some of your worrisome behavior at his restaurant. Really? William maintained a calm tone, like the incident report you faked, or the testimony you gathered from Jason about an incident that never happened? The professional mask on Emma's face cracked. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you know, William drew out a folder, that I actually have copies of all your stuff. Your detailed reports, your carefully fabricated narratives, your correspondence with Rebecca about structuring the divorce case. Very interesting reading material. These are privileged documents. Not when this falsified evidence is stored on a shared cloud account. William's smile was tinged with a chill. How do you think Harrison and Miller would feel about the evidence showing that their newest junior partner is falsifying evidence? What will the Bar Association think? Emma's face turned pale. Her cell phone vibrated and George's name was displayed on the screen. William got up and left, leaving her staring at her phone, watching her carefully constructed future crumble before her eyes. Rebecca was especially thoughtful that night. Darling, you've hardly touched your wine. She stroked his arm with a look of concern. Is everything all right at work? He watched the movement of her fingers as she messaged Oliver under the table, watched them exchange glances. Oliver had a chance encounter and claimed he was just dropping off some real estate documents. His sunburn looked fresh, probably from the weekend at Jason's lake house, the same PR conference Rebecca claimed to have attended. Everything's fine, William replied, raising his glass, just thinking about the future. It'll be perfect, she said, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Trust me. William does believe her believes that it's utterly inconceivable for her to imagine him in any role other than that of the predictable, trusting husband. Her fatal flaw is not her infidelity or greed. but her absolute certainty that she is the smartest person in the room. His briefcase held their secrets, their plans, their betrayals. But William holds something far more valuable, the advantage of surprise. In the game, it's just beginning. The next day, William met with Marcus Wu at the Registry of Titles. Rebecca is attending her PR firm's quarterly board meeting, a carefully orchestrated alibi that happens to provide the perfect timing for what's about to happen. Mr. Thompson, Marcus's handshake was steady and strong, his smile imploring, "The funds are ready, and my client appreciates this kind of prudent trading." Within 2 hours, Riverside's vacation home had a new owner. The $100,000 profit went into William's personal account, and an anonymous donation equal to Rebecca's share was transferred. William's cell phone rings, indicating an incoming call from Oliver Harrison, and he lets it go to voicemail, imagining the panic on Oliver's face as he looks through the property records. The next phase begins at the State Real Estate Board. William watched from across the street as Oliver walked out of the office, his face pale. His company had cut ties with him, their reputation in the Boston luxury market too valuable to risk. "Mr. Harrison," a local reporter stepped forward quickly, cameras already recording. "Any response to the ethics violations and fraud allegations?" Oliver pushed past reporters and hurried away, but the damage was done. By the end of the night, news of his license suspension was public. A reputation built over a decade in Boston's luxury housing market fell apart in a single day. At Jason's restaurant, IRS investigators are conducting an audit. William watched through the restaurant's security cameras, a perk of his position as a shareholder that still came into play, as they questioned employees about corporate activities that didn't exist. "Mr. Williams," said one of the investigators, "can you explain the payment records for these corporate activities? We couldn't find any corresponding booking records." Jason's usual subdued mask cracked. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a misunderstanding? Rebecca's carefully woven escape plan is coming loose one by one. Her hidden funds are frozen as a result of the investigation. Emma's legal career is in ruins, and Jason's restaurant faces intense scrutiny. William's cell phone vibrated again. This time it was Rebecca. "Honey, there's something wrong with our account," she said with an undisguised panic in her voice. "I can't access it." "Strange," William responded, his tone calm. "Did you confirm the bank?" "They said there was an investigation about fraud and that Oliver hadn't been answering his phone. It must be very stressful, like planning a secret divorce or an affair." There was dead silence on the other end of the line. "William," Rebecca's PR-trained voice began to tremble, "I can explain." "Save it for explaining to your crisis communications team." "Oh wait, weren't you suspended indefinitely?" He hung up and nodded to Richard. "Time for the final step?" At exactly 2 p.m., a courier walks into Rebecca's PR firm, holding divorce papers and a sealed envelope. William watched Rebecca receive the file through the security monitor in the lobby and watched her carefully maintained composure completely crumble as she read his letter. Surprise. Found a better retirement plan. Attached are the contents of her diary, financial records, and detailed evidence of every betrayal. Around her, the office phones began ringing off the hook, and as news of the Phoenix Foundation's launch spread, the local media took a keen interest in the story of the prominent PR executive caught up in a financial fraud scandal. Rebecca rushes home, probably expecting a confrontation, but all she found was an empty house with only her personal belongings and a room full of carefully organized evidence of her deception. Every drawer, every shelf, holds proof of another betrayal: the bank statements showing her hidden accounts, the photos of Jason's lake house, the emails with Oliver plotting his escape. William watched from his hotel suite as Rebecca walked out of the house hours later, her makeup already smudged. His cell phone started ringing like crazy. First Rebecca, then Oliver, and finally Jason. He methodically blocked the numbers one by one, like removing damaged support members from a damaged building piece by piece. Local news made headlines with Oliver's license suspension and the formation of the Phoenix Foundation. The Foundation's first seminar is already fully booked and is titled Recognizing Financial Infidelity in Marriage, featuring a prominent divorce attorney. The next day, Rebecca's PR firm announced that she was taking an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons. The irony of a PR executive unable to manage his own crisis was not missed by industry observers. That night, William sat in Richard's office and reviewed the aftermath of the storm. Rebecca's carefully constructed world comes crashing down in 48 hours. No more house, no more hidden funds, no more lover's escape plan. Oliver is facing career ruin. Jason's restaurant is under investigation, and Emma's legal career is over before it even began. Ready for the next stage? Richard asked. There's no need for the next stage. William stood up. I don't need to watch them suffer. I just need them to lose everything they tried to steal from me. He walked out of the office, leaving their shattered lives and desperate phone calls and messages behind. They thought he was a fool, too trusting to notice the betrayal. Instead, they realized too late what a weapon trust, once broken, can become in the right hands. Later that night, William stood at the window of his hotel suite. The night view of Boston spread out at his feet. All that remained on his phone was a confirmation message from the Junior Partner Regulatory Committee that Emma's law license had been revoked. Hearing was scheduled for next week. He watched the numbers of those missed calls on his cell phone grow. Rebecca, 47, Oliver, 23, Jason, 15, Emma, 31. Each number was like a silent admission of guilt, each missed call a mockery of their arrogance. Their struggle and despair proves just how much they overestimated their own cleverness and how much they underestimated his abilities. Tomorrow, the media will begin to report in depth on Oliver Harrison's business innovations, the real estate deals he manipulated, and the clients he cheated. The day after tomorrow, the IRS will release the results of its preliminary investigation into Jason's restaurant. Emma's hearing will serve as a cautionary tale for the legal profession. But tonight, William just watched the city lights in silence, playing with the journal in his hands that had done its job. Sometimes the perfect revenge is not to patch them up when they fall, but to let them watch their carefully constructed castle of lies come crashing down in a storm of truth. After all, as a structural engineer, he knew that it was often not the obvious blows that were the deadliest, but the precise cuts hidden in the details that were enough to destroy the entire foundation. William stood in attorney Richard Holbrook's office as morning light poured in through the glass walls, illuminating the corner suite in Boston's financial district, the very place where it all began and where it would come to a close. The reflected sunlight from the surrounding buildings flickered as they checked the papers one last time. Everything's in place, Richard said, spreading the papers out on his mahogany desk. The timing has to be perfect for us to go over it again. Good. Richard pulls up a couple of documents on his monitor. Your protected assets are secure, and the trust fund your grandfather set up is too solid for Rebecca to touch. We've documented all instances of financial betrayal, including the $200,000 she transferred through Jason's restaurant. Vacation Properties, Marcus Wu is ready to go, and his investment firm specializes in handling quick, discreet real estate acquisitions. Once you give the order, we can close the deal in a few hours. William nodded. What about the foundation? The Phoenix Foundation's incorporation papers have been filed for the purpose of helping victims of financial betrayal by their spouses. Press releases have been prepared to emphasize anonymous donors' first-hand experiences with spousal betrayal and financial fraud. The local media has already shown great interest, and they love these types of humanizing stories. Richard pulled out another folder. The divorce papers are ready. Would you like to see the cover letter again? No need. William stood up and straightened his suit. It's time to end this. The next morning, William met with Marcus Wu at the Register of Titles office. Rebecca is attending her PR firm's quarterly board meeting, a carefully orchestrated alibi that happens to provide the perfect timing for what's about to happen. Mr. Thompson, Marcus' handshake was steady and strong. The funds are in place and my client appreciates this prudent trade. Within 2 hours, the Riverside vacation home changed hands. The $100,000 profit went into William's private account, and the foundation received an anonymous donation equal to Rebecca's share. William's cell phone rings, indicating an incoming call from Oliver Harrison, and he lets it go to voicemail, imagining the panic on Oliver's face as he checks the property records. The next phase unfolds at the State Real Estate Board. William looks across the street at Oliver as he walks out of the commission office, his face pale. His company had cut ties with him, Their reputation in the Boston luxury market too, valuable to risk. Mr. Harrison, a local reporter stepped forward quickly, cameras already recording. Any response to the ethics violations and fraud allegations? Oliver pushed past reporters and hurried away, but the damage was done. By the end of the night, news of his license suspension was public. A reputation built over a decade in Boston's luxury housing market was wiped out in a matter of days. The irony of it all is that those clients he once cheated are now coming forward to accuse him of misconduct. At Jason's restaurant, the IRS investigation continues. Those elaborate fake event receipts became their nightmare. Eventually, Jason had to hastily sell the restaurant at a 60% discount. The owner who once called the shots in the Boston restaurant scene is now stuck as the manager of a chain of steakhouses in New Jersey, where suits have been replaced by polyester uniforms and fine wines by blended drinks. Emma's hearing was held as scheduled. In the boardroom of Harrison and Miller, she watched her legal career fall apart under the watchful eye of the senior partner. "It was a mistake," she protested. "Those documents were taken out of context." "There's no context that makes falsifying evidence acceptable," George interrupted. "The Bar Association has been notified. Pack up your office." She eventually moved back into her parents' house in Connecticut and worked as a legal assistant at a small-town law firm. The ambitious man who once dreamed of becoming a partner at Harrison and Miller can now only organize simple legal documents and is not even qualified to advise clients. Rebecca's breakdown came most completely when she discovers that all her accounts have been frozen and hidden funds are under investigation. She realizes that her carefully woven escape plan has fallen apart. Her public relations firm announced that she was taking an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons, a euphemism that doesn't hide the fact that no client wants to trust a crisis communications expert who can't manage her own scandals. Local media made headlines with the launch of the Phoenix Foundation. The Foundation's first seminar is already fully booked and is titled Recognizing Financial Infidelity in Marriage, featuring a renowned divorce attorney. Angela Chin, as a special guest, used Rebecca's case as a teaching example to explain in detail how to detect financial fraud in spouses. Although not named, the industry knows who the protagonist of this anonymous case is. Michael Zhang's cybersecurity firm has won several high-class contracts after handling electronic evidence. His lawful deposition of Rebecca and Oliver's electronic communications became a case study. He recently opened an office in Boston, and William was one of his first clients. William sits in Richard's office, reviewing the aftermath of the storm. Rebecca's carefully constructed world comes crashing down in a matter of days. No more house, no more hidden funds, no more escape plans for her lover. Oliver is facing career ruin. Jason's restaurant is being liquidated, and Emma's legal career is over before it even began. "Ready for the next stage?" Richard asked. "There's no need for the next stage," William stood up. "I don't need to watch them suffer. I just need them to lose everything they tried to steal from me." He walked out of the office, leaving their shattered lives and desperate phone calls and messages behind. In his safe, that diary is no longer proof of betrayal, but an insurance policy against any attempt at reputation reconstruction. Rebecca has already tried this route. She hired a crisis management firm in Chicago to try to portray herself as a victim of her controlling husband. But the contents of the diary, in conjunction with the financial records, quickly put an end to the attempt. The Phoenix Foundation exceeded all expectations. Their seminars attracted participants from all over New England, and William's anonymous donations have continued to grow through other donations, funding research on patterns of marital financial fraud. The Foundation's work has helped several families detect and stop similar plots in time. Contractors who participated in the Oliver rebate program also faced their own liquidation. The state board's investigation led to the revocation of multiple licenses, and the iron laws of the construction industry ensured that their reputations would follow them forever, making it nearly impossible to find work in New England. William stood in front of the window, looking out over the Boston skyline, his reflection on the glass looking firm and calm. Rebecca, Oliver, Emma, and Jason are struggling to rebuild shattered lives and ruined reputations across the country, and he, for one, is ready to start a new chapter. His cell phone still kept getting notifications of missed calls, but those numbers had long since been blocked. Just as the demolition of a damaged building involves the methodical removal of every damaged supporting member, so too does he remove every betrayer in his life in an orderly fashion. Now it's time to focus on rebuilding. The lobby of the mountain lodge extends out onto a viewing platform where late fall sunlight streams through tall larch pines and casts dappled shadows on William Thompson's drafting table. The understated three-bedroom log cabin is a far cry from the mansion originally planned for Riverside, where every beam and angle condenses his engineering expertise, not as a show of wealth, but as the ultimate pursuit of precision. The integration of passive solar heating is amazing, Claire Richardson said, intently studying the blueprint for their latest collaborative project. The award-winning architect reached out to him 6 months ago, taking a keen interest in his remodeling project. Most engineers focus on the structure and ignore the environmental impact, Williams said. Most architects go for aesthetics and ignore technical integrity. Claire picked up, a knowing smile on her face. Their professional collaboration developed naturally, based on mutual respect and forthright honesty, in contrast to past experiences. The leather-bound diary still lies in the safe in his office, no longer a memento of betrayal, but an insurance policy against any attempt to whitewash history. Rebecca has already tried this route. She hired a crisis management firm in Chicago to try to portray herself as a victim of her controlling husband. But the contents of the diary, in conjunction with the financial records, quickly put an end to the attempt. Rebecca's move to Chicago is more of an escape than a rebirth. Her PR career fell from handling crises for Fortune 500 companies to managing social media for second-rate corporations. With scandals following in their wake, potential clients are questioning, what makes a PR professional who can't manage his public image trustworthy? Oliver Harrison's fall was even more dramatic. From selling luxury homes in Boston to marketing timeshare ownership of vacation condominiums in Florida, this change in geographic location symbolizes the free fall of a career. His suspended real estate broker's license in Massachusetts made headlines in real estate publications. Today, he wears cheap polyester suits and sells fractional ownership of old beachfront condominiums to retirees. And those Italian-tailored suits are left to lie in the closet collecting dust. Jason Williams eventually sold his restaurant at a 60% discount. The IRS audit not only uncovered fraudulent event planning expenses, but also the annual creative accounting. He avoided jail time through a plea deal, but his reputation in the Boston restaurant scene was irreparably damaged. He is now said to be managing a chain of steakhouses in suburban New Jersey. And the restaurant mogul who once called the shots on Boston's food scene is now struggling with customer complaints about medium-rare steaks. Emma's legal career was over before it even really began. No law firm would hire a junior lawyer with an ethical stain, and the state bar's discipline ensured that she would never be able to practice in Massachusetts. She moved back to her parents' home in Connecticut to work as a legal assistant at a small-town law firm, a far cry from her ambitions at Harrison and Miller. George was promoted to senior managing partner at Harrison and Miller after reporting Emma's misconduct. His decision to choose professional integrity over personal affection has instead enhanced his reputation. He and William still have lunch occasionally, and their friendship has grown stronger through the storm. Angela Chen expanded her forensic accounting practice, using the case as a staff training material. Rebecca's financial maneuvers, while ultimately proving amateurish, provide excellent teaching material. She even spoke at a Phoenix Foundation seminar on how to recognize the signs of financial fraud in spouses. Michael Zhang's cybersecurity firm has won several high-class contracts after handling electronic evidence. His lawful deposition of Rebecca and Oliver's electronic communications became a case study. He recently opened an office in Boston, and William was one of his first clients. William and Claire's collaboration has resulted in 3 successful projects, each demonstrating their shared commitment to sustainable luxury design. Their professional relationship gradually developed some more personal overtones, built on transparency and shared values. Unlike Rebecca's carefully calculated intimacy, Claire's straightforward character finds beauty in honesty, not manipulation for profit. This mountain cabin, while much smaller than the house in Riverside, offers something much more valuable: peace and quiet. Being mortgage-free reflects Williams' new philosophy. True security comes not from elaborate escape plans or hidden accounts, but from building something solid and sustainable. Standing above the valley, William reflects on the changes of the past year. Rebecca, Oliver, Emma, and Jason gamble everything on their perfect escape plan, certain that their victim will bear the betrayal meekly. However, while they are scattered across the country trying to rebuild shattered lives and ruined reputations, he builds a new career. A life built not on escapism or hidden agendas, but on something far more valuable: the knowledge that you have not only survived betrayal, but have transformed it into the building blocks of rebirth. From his terrace, the horizon was endless and clear, no longer haunted by lies and calculations. He learned that true wealth is not measured by the size of a house or an account balance, but by being able to sleep with peace of mind and not be plagued by deception. Rebecca and her co-conspirators try to steal his retirement dreams, but accidentally give him a priceless gift: the chance to build a better life. The diary that started it all still lies quietly in the safe, no longer a record of betrayal, but a reminder that sometimes endings are nothing more than a disguise for new beginnings. William sat on the deck and watched the sunset gild the mountains. He had a message on his cell phone from Claire asking for his thoughts on his next project. He smiled, but didn't reply immediately. At the moment, he had all the time in the world. Time to build something new, something better, to rise from the ashes of betrayal. After all, the perfect revenge is not to replicate the damage, but to transcend it and create a radiant new life out of the ashes of pain. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.